We've all had those crazy nightmares in high school where you're missing an exam or an important test, but the problem with university is that if you are not planning your days, then it can easily become a reality. So what I like to do is plan my week the way every South African eats their food. First you start off with the vegetables and the yucky stuff, and then you end off with the meat, the stuff you actually want to eat. So if you want to learn how to balance your social life, your academics, as well as your relationship, then give this video a like and stay tuned as I walk you through how I like to use Google Calendar.
Watch out, world, I'm grown now. I'm grown.
So I use Google Calendar for a number of reasons, 5 to be specific. Number 1, because I'm a very easygoing girl, if you couldn't tell. So I like to go with the flow, which means that I like to plan everything in my head and keep my commitments in my head, which means because I don't have specific times that I'm completing specific tasks, I tend to find myself in a position where I've overcommitted. The second reason is that I don't end up chasing deadlines, because one thing about chasing deadlines is that you will have anxiety and you will have stress, which will ultimately lead to your demise, your death, your ugushwa. Another cool thing about Google Calendar is that it's not bound to a specific mobile software, so you can use it across Android and iOS devices without having to worry about paying extra fees to jailbreak the what of the what. It works everywhere because Google works everywhere. Google Calendar also has a cool location feature which allows me to type in the location of the task that I have, so that if I have to leave earlier because of traffic, Google Calendar can notify me and let me know, because again, Google Calendar works with everything, with Google Maps, with Google Traffic, with Google everything. And then last but not least, the beautiful reminder feature, which will tell me exactly how many ever days, minutes or hours before that I need to know that a task needs to take place. Now for the actual planning. So the first thing that I like to do is make a list of all of my priorities, because a lot of the times I find that I'm under the impression that I genuinely don't have time to do things that I love to do, when the reality is I'm just a terrible planner. And so listing out my priorities helps me to see exactly what it is that I have to do, exactly what it is that I want to do, and what it is that I have committed to do. So this list of priorities includes things that you want to make time for. And for me, one of the things that I'd really like to make time for is exercise and a social life, because I need it. And then what you're gonna wanna do is break it into 3 different categories in order of priority.
Alright, so what you're looking at right now is a list of my priorities. Remember, this includes both your needs and your wants and things that you would like to incorporate into your schedule. And then once you've got your priorities down, you're gonna wanna break them into 3 different categories. That's your should, your would, and your could. Should is basically the non-negotiables, everything that you should do no matter what is going on in your life, whether your house is on fire, your leg is on fire, or your finger is missing. These things cannot be negotiated. The second category is your would category, and these are things that you would normally do as and when you have free time. And the last category are things that you could do if you had free time, but you don't, or that's what we think. And I'm just gonna go ahead and fill all of that right out. And as you can see, I've got God, school, chores, and relationships, and you're gonna want to put these in order of priority in your life. YouTube is a whole thing on its own. Exercise and social life are things that I'm willing to let go of should circumstances not allow, but I would also really like to have in my life. And I don't recommend that you have more than 4 things in your should category, just because that's like unreasonable and you're just not gonna win.
And when you're breaking these things up into the 3 categories, it's important that you're honest with yourself. It's important that you're real with yourself, because I found that I tend to have firstborn syndrome, which means that if there are things that need to happen, if there are deadlines that need to be met in categories like would and could, I will still do it because I like to take responsibility and I like to make sure that things are done and on time. But sometimes unexpected things happen in life, and then one thing has to give, but it cannot be anything in my should category, and that is why you have a would and a could category, because these are things that you can forsake. And now finally, for the part that you have been waiting for, Google Calendar. There are 2 things that I like to consider when I start with my Google Calendar planning, and that is color psychology as well as time blocking. I've noticed that when I'm working, my brain is in a specific mode of focus, and if anything or anyone breaks that focus, then I can't continue with the task at hand. So what I like to do is group all of my tasks into like-minded boxes or blocks if you'd rather call it that, and then schedule my day in blocks. And then the second thing, which might not be important to you but kind of is to me, is color psychology. I don't know if you know this, but there's a reason why Chicken Lick and KFC and all of these restaurants have red in them, because the color psychology of red is that it would make you desire something and it would make you hungry. I don't really know the finer details, but you can go Google color psychology and see what I'm talking about. So what I like to do is put my blocks according to colors that will make me respond in a specific way towards it. So for example, when it comes to my schoolwork, I like to use pleasant colors, pinks and purples and yellows, because I don't want to get to a point where I see a red line and I'm just freaking out in my mind. I know it doesn't make sense to you, but it really makes sense to me. Just put everything into different colors so you can see where everything is at. And I'm gonna show you exactly what that looks like on my Google Calendar desktop. Okay, so what you're looking at right now is my Google Calendar desktop, and if you look here on the side, there are a bunch of calendars. And this is what I meant when I spoke about time blocking, is that when I click on school, you'll see there are little blocks in which I do schoolwork, and outside of these blocks, I don't touch schoolwork unless obviously I've got extra time, because school requires that sometimes. But what you'll also notice is that school is in a very pleasant, very cute pastel purple lilac color, because of the whole color psychology thing that I told you about. So the first thing that you'll notice when you look at my Google Calendar on my desktop is the many calendars here on the side. So there's a reason for all of this, and if you look very closely, these are all the things that were on my list of priorities. And so what I've done is I've taken everything in my should category and everything in my would category, and I've created a separate calendar for each and every single one of those things. The could category is something that I'm going to look at once I switch to the mobile app, which I'll explain to you later. I started off with my relationship with God because, like I mentioned, my relationship with God is the most important thing. So everything pertaining to that, I've sort of booked out and made sure that is safe and has its time slot. And then what I've done is I've gone to school, because that's the second thing on my priority. You'll see the time blocks are very cool and calm colors, because like I said, I don't want a calendar that's going to psych me out every time I look at it, because everything is screaming at me and everything makes me feel like I'm overwhelmed, which I'm not. On top of having a time blocked space for school, I also have time out for my classes, which is a similar color, and then time for my study. So in my blocks for school, you'll see that I'm accounting for every single hour. It includes my study time, it includes my class time, and it includes my lecture preparation time, which would be all of the empty spots that you see in my school category time. And then once my study time, my God time, my school time is in place, then I look at all of my relationships, relationship with myself and my relationship with people. So this is where my family comes in, the breaks come in, the relationships come in, as well as my night routine, which also includes some relationship stuff. Now that I'm done with the should category, I move over into the would category, and that, like I said, is YouTube. Again, I appreciate everyone who watches those ads, because you are the reason why I can do my hair. Cool. That for me is YouTube, and YouTube only, and you'll see it pops up. It's a very different color to make sure that I'm aware that, okay, now we're switching over into a completely different mode. When I don't have classes, what I like to do is look at my YouTube comments, respond to comments. This is something that I should probably mention. Don't pack out your calendar to full capacity, because you're not gonna do it. It's simply impossible. I used to do that. I used to account for every single hour of my 24 hours in a day, and that absolutely didn't work. I end up feeling guilty and I end up feeling overwhelmed, because there's so much to do, but I also am not keeping up. So then I just cry and do nothing the entire week. But if you look at my calendar, you'll see that Wednesdays literally are the only days where my day is fully packed to that degree, and that's just because I've got school, and then I have YouTube in between school, but then I have cell, and I want to prepare for cell by praying and doing all the necessary things that need to be done. But other than that, I generally like to leave a couple of free spaces, especially in the evening, just for me to relax, because also me, I'm a person, guys, I must live life. Must enjoy life. And then at this point is where I would usually go then and put in my deadlines. So deadlines for assignments, tests that I'm going to be writing, anything of that nature, I will do in the form of tasks. Assignment, right? And then I'll say set it in as a task, at 9 a.m. and then I save it. And now I know after class I've got an assignment due on Monday and I need to attend to that. Another thing that helps me is to set my assignment a couple of hours earlier than it actually is due, so that I'm not chasing the deadline. And if anything goes wrong, I have extra time to fix that. So now that we're done with our should and our would category, we're gonna do the could category on our mobile app. But before we go to the mobile app, I quickly want to show you how to create an event on Google Calendar, as well as how to color coordinate it, because if you look at the colors that I have here, these are not the colors that Google gives you as an option. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you want to group your stuff into similar blocks, and that's what I've done. I've put it out into little blocks, and how you create those blocks is very simple. First, you go to other calendars, you hit plus, you say create new calendar, and then say it is for exercise. I create that calendar. Wait, it should be a little calendar creation in progress here. Okay, so once exercise appears on your calendar list, you're gonna click on options for exercise, and we're gonna choose the color. But because you wanna create a custom color, you're gonna hit the plus button. And so what I've done is I've already Googled color schemes that I like. So you just hit in the Google search bar, Google Calendar color schemes. So what you'll find is all sorts of palettes with all sorts of different colors and color combinations. I, for one, just go and pick random colors that are appealing to me. And I like this F04C0 color. So what you're gonna do is switch over back to your Google Calendar and go FAD4CO calendar. And there it is. There is the color, darling. Literally, if I'm gonna schedule 10 a.m. exercise, I'm gonna say, I don't know, crunches. Crunches for an hour. And then on calendars, I'm just gonna hit exercise, and you'll see Google goes to that color automatically, so you don't have to stress and try and figure out how you're gonna do the color. Another cool thing is the repeating. So I know for me, I don't want to go and like put in the same thing every single week and re-enter something that's gonna occur. Like your classes, you've got a timetable that is gonna happen every single week unless there's a public holiday. So what I do is I'll hit repeat weekly on a Sunday. So every week on a Sunday, Google Calendar knows to put that out there. I also can add guests to my calendar. So for example, sometimes I'll add my mom, because my mom likes to call me during class time, and that's not something that I appreciate. So I'll just add her so that when she opens up Google Calendar, she can see the times that I'm busy and the times that I'm free for her to call. The same thing with a Google Meet conference. If you have an online sort of like meeting, you can add that there. The location, like I said, and then Google will configure the traffic and all of the drama for you, the notification, darling, and then just hit save and live your best life. So now that all that shenanigans is out the way, let's go into the mobile app.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is go into Google Calendar, and then the calendar that we've been working on should pop up automatically. You're gonna say plus, and then you're gonna hit goal. And basically what this does is that the calendar will choose the best times to schedule sessions for your goal. There's everything from exercise all the way to organizing your life. And you'll see if you click friends and family, it literally gives you kind of activities that you can do. You can hit custom and it will give you a couple more: plan a family holiday, walk the dog, yada yada. You could type in anything else and Google will accept it, but that's not what I'm gonna do. I would like to exercise. I want to work out 3 times a week for 30 minutes every evening. And yes, please connect to my health app. Yo, that makes my life so much easier. But basically, I don't have to do any of the thinking for the most part. Google will figure it out, and all we have to do is just change the color so it's a color that stands out, as well as make sure that the time works for you. So it says my first session is tomorrow at 6 p.m. Does tomorrow 6 p.m. work for me? I think that looks fine. And just like that, my workout time is scheduled. Like I said, you want to change that to a time that works for you and a color that kind of stands out. I'm just gonna move this one over to Friday because I mean it doesn't make sense for me to work out then. And that is literally what you would do for your social life and any other goal that you have.
Alright, so that's practically the end of how I use Google Calendar. If you found this video helpful, I know that you'll find the upcoming video helpful, so make sure that you do check it out.